Marco Reus. Daniel Malen! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Reus. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Graceful. Sally Hurtdown for Anthony Modeste.
Not a bad idea. And there it is for Coco. For Borussia Dortmund. The long wait is over. Unbridled joy in the Vivia Derby.
Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jake, joined as always by Carver, and thank God where we are, the weather is fantastic today because if the weather, Carver and I are feeling, we're both a little bummed out. We're both a little, I don't even know if we're really motivated to do this episode, but hey, it looks great outside. Carver, how are you doing, man?
I'm holding up all right. I'm doing all right despite the heartbreaking result from Saturday. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, it was a rough weekend all around.
It really was.
I won't get into everything because I'm learning to not talk too much about another soccer team because this is a Dortmund podcast. But on that note, there was a fun watch party that I missed, but a certain someone who lives in St. Louis, who is in reference to what I was just talking, almost alluding to, was hanging out at the watch party. And before we talk about the match and what a bummer that was, I want to shout out the Amsterdam Tavern, Borussia STL, our local supporters group, and the watch party that they had at Amsterdam Tavern. And Carver, I'll let you mention that, talk about that. I was planning on going. I had something come up on Saturday and I missed it. I did not miss the game though. What a bummer, and it would have been way more fun to watch with friends. I assume it was maybe a good time despite the result.
Yeah, it was still a nice time, obviously, getting everyone together. There was just a whole lot of things going on outside of the game. Lutz Pfannenstiel was there. For those of you who are outside of the St. Louis region and are not familiar with the sporting director of who he is for St. Louis, he's also obviously a Bundesliga commentator. Catch him usually every 3 games or so max. He's doing a Dortmund game. So he was there hanging out with us. We had an official partnership with Dortmund. So they had a giveaway with signed jerseys from the entire team. There were 2 or 3 jerseys that were signed by Weidenfeller, a lot of hats, a lot of great merch. I didn't win anything, unfortunately. Nathan, I thought we had talked about this of rigging the raffle so I could get a signed jersey, but that's all right. And they also, I didn't even know, I don't know how I didn't hear about this part, but they also had a fundraiser for an animal rescue here in town. Nathan and his wife, I believe, were the ones that put that together. So they raised over $500 for that rescue, and the animal rescue said that they paid for all the bills that they needed to pay for the puppies they were working with, which is great. So small little dub, I guess, for Saturday. But yeah, overall, it was a great time at the bar.
Yeah, and then I know our homies in Brooklyn, the Bruce and Brooklyn guys, had a big old watch party out in Brooklyn, of course, at Banter Bar, and a lot of watch parties everywhere. Unfortunately, not the results. I feel like I'm just rambling and babbling because I don't know if maybe I'm subconsciously putting off talking about the match. Do we just want to jump into Twitter questions? No, we should probably talk about the match. So you want to get started, Carver? Of course, we're Bayern coming off the Bayern 4-2 defeat. Someone did ask me later in the day how the match went, and I was just not great. I was it was 4-2, and as I even said the result, I was granted, Dortmund got 2 goals. This doesn't really reflect how the game went at all. Which 4-2 is bad anyways, but you know what I mean? Even the 2 goals saying it felt
they were
it was
very
better.
Flattering. And the 2 goals, I guess cushioned the blow, but it was pretty bleak, unfortunately. And before I even get into the lineup, I just want to talk about the mentality leading up to this game. I'm not alone when I say this time just felt different. It was the first competitive quote unquote Der Klassiker, which I'm not even going to use that term anymore. We've seen so many times now how this game has panned out, but in terms of the table, in terms of the squad on paper, the storyline leading up to the fixture, our form for virtually this entire calendar year so far, all pointed to this game just being different. Tuchel obviously having maybe 2 or 3 training sessions as new head coach of Bayern. They're pretty discombobulated at the moment. Bayern are questioning themselves, of course, from top down. Dortmund on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, near perfect record for 3 months now. It was all leading up to this historic game, and hope maybe an opportunity for Dortmund to reach even higher up the table and continue to assert their dominance for the calendar year. But just a total gut punch and a heartbreaking game to witness, unfortunately. And that's what I've been spending the last few days recovering from, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much positivity going into it. And I think that the sad part too, or maybe it's just the cause and result of the 10 years of Bayern's dominance, but like listening to other people talk about this match, specifically I listened to the Gegenpressing podcast with Manuel Veth and Stefan Bienkowski, if I said that right. And even they mentioned it, like going into this match, they're like, we want to be more excited, but we still, like, realistically, it doesn't seem like Dortmund's going to win. Like there's still like this little chip that's like, yeah, the table looks nice and everything, but it's like, do they actually have it? And watching this game, it was like, man, we're still so far off.
Yeah, we're all thinking the approach was going to be different too, which in recent times, I think our approach has been different going into Munich specifically. Terzic stated in a pre-match press conference, "We must courageously seize our opportunities and show a different face tomorrow than we have in recent years in Munich." And I foolishly latched on to this quote with so much hope, just clinging on to it, thinking, time and time again, one of 2 things goes into Munich. We either are just complete dog water from the start, from the jump, or we do come out courageously and play well for 10, 15 minutes, and then we collapse whenever Bayern score against the run of play. And unfortunately, again, almost predictable, because everyone was pretty nervous, even though, the massive confidence booster we had right before the international break. It was almost like clockwork. And, we started confidently, quick ball movement, won some dangerous set pieces. We won a corner within the first 45 seconds. But yeah, right, we'll get into that goal. But just right when that went in, just completely collapsed.
Do you think the international break hurt us in this instance? Like if maybe the break did a little more harm because obviously the guys went off and had to focus on other things, and then it's almost like too much time to think about it, out of the flow, and maybe that was not the problem, but a hindrance in some way.
It's a bit multifactorial, but also too, I think we rushed some players back into this game, and evidently Schlotterbeck going off in this game late in the first half, or I think early in the second half, one of those two, I'm not remembering now. But either way, yeah, you're throwing in these players that we thought were good to go, but I guess that really wasn't the case, and we were just wanting to, use every resource we could to try to get a result out of this. And unfortunately, yeah, just didn't really pan out. Do you want to get into the goal real quick?
Well, let's run through the starting lineup. And real quick, before we really jump into the match too, I just want to shout out all of the listeners. We appreciate you hanging out with us every week. Of course, with the international break, we took the week off, and Carver and I were texting quite a bit because we were just seeing the numbers pour in as far as listeners. And we just had March was I think we only did 3 episodes. And March was our highest listening month by a long shot. So thank you. It's crazy. I don't know, Carver and I, we say it a lot, but if you are new, we just kind of started this just to talk Dortmund. I wanted to talk Dortmund with someone and have someone to watch and talk Dortmund with. It's kind of why we started this. And it's just been crazy. So the numbers have been insane, really, especially as of late. And I've been saying that a lot lately, but it just keeps going up. Maybe everyone's lost hope after this match, and maybe we're going to get 2 listeners, and maybe it will just be me and Carver listening back to this.
Yeah.
When this comes out. We'll see. But really, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And this is Dortmund. It's the ups and downs, and I think there's still a lot to look forward to. We might talk about it a little more, but like obviously a lot was riding on this match, but it doesn't mean the season's over. And sometimes these matches that, even though it seemed like a big championship match, like this is not the day that decides it. Like there's still a lot of matches to be played. So hopefully that keeps you wanting to follow Dortmund and hanging around. But yeah, again, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, very sincere thank you. And what's even crazier is last month and we had Adam on, of course, and that was a great episode, but the other two were just us. So we didn't have any other guests on and the number still rose. So yeah, very sincere thank you to anyone and everyone that spends an hour or less of your time with us. It's always nice to get the engagement from the fans. We talk about that all the time. But yeah, let's wait. You didn't say the lineup yet. Excuse me. Let's
no. Yeah, let's get into the sadness. Which the lineup? I mean, this is kind of what we expected. And you said maybe rushing some guys back. I think there was a lot of optimism before the break. We even talked about it in the preview. It's like we might have Brandt back. Looks like Royce is going to be back. Kobel is going to be back. And I don't know if the, like you said, rushing them back, maybe they weren't quite ready. And I wonder if like the staff was kind of feeling that too. It's like, if we need these guys back for this match, let's get them in there if it's at all possible. And yeah, I mean that gave me a lot of the hope going into this match too. We talked about it like, oh, if Brandt's back, great. Royce is back, great. Kobel, awesome. Yeah, but so lineup, we'll jump right into it unless you got anything to add.
It's the exact lineup that I should have tweeted out the day before, but it's honestly the exact lineup I would have went with. So you had Kobel back in goal, Rierson at left, Schlotterbeck and Sule as our two center backs, Wolf is right back, Chan is our single pivot. In front of him, Jude and Jude and Guerrero, and then Royce was out on the left, Brandt was on the right. Haller up top. So we're rocking a 4-5-1. Of course, it fluctuates, and it definitely fluctuated in this game when it all went wrong. And we'll get to that. But that was the shape that we started out with. And that's exactly how I would have went with our lineup as well, and shape and everything. I know Royce and Brandt had really forgettable days, but given the form that they were in beforehand, Brandt being the focal point of and heartbeat of our attack for virtually this entire calendar year so far. And it obviously too, if they got the clear from the medical staff, which maybe that might have been a little bit faltered, I would have given them the go ahead as well.
I'm just going to start with a question because I mean, it's something I'm asking myself, but I appreciate your take. I'm not going to jump into the Twitter question, but there's a Twitter question that was directed at 100% Carver. And if you just value Carver's opinion more than mine, that's totally cool, because I do too. Like I'd rather hear Carver talk, but I noticed it was like, oh, guys, I'm here too. But Carver, so I guess we haven't seen like Royce and Brandt and Guerrero in there. Like Guerrero just moved up to the midfield with pretty much Brandt and Royce like in the time that they were absent. Do you think this caused any hindrance at all, or like was it? I don't know. I just, when you see those kind of like partnerships in like positional shifts, I feel like it can throw off what you had been doing before, and I don't know if that played any part in. Granted, like I mean, the game was a complete collapse because of other reasons, and who knows what would have happened like if Guerrero was playing left back. But I just don't know if those little change ups kind of caused a little disconnect.
Well, I think those three can definitely play together, and we've talked about it a lot before, but they all link up with each other very, very well. Going back a few years when we had Sancho as well, when he was pushed up the wing and Guerrero was still at left back, Guerrero, Sancho, Brandt, and Royce would just all link together very well, play off each other very, very well. And I think that's what we're kind of going for here. But of course, you're going to also lack a lot of pace. Royce being the age he is, Brandt's got some legs in him, but him and Guerrero both aren't the fastest. So obviously, you're going to have that. You're going to lack that width. You're going to lack that pace. And I don't think that was the determining factor, at least in attack. But yeah, I could see how that just maybe wouldn't work against Bayern right now. Just especially with just them coming off of injury as well. I don't think they had a lot of time to kind of work themselves into a good steady ship going into the game. But either way, again, started confidently, moved the ball pretty well. I was still just very skeptical those first 10 minutes because I was like, yeah, we are playing well for sure. But I even said out loud at the bar, I was like, Bayern are going to score against the run of play, and then we'll see how this team responds. That's whenever the test will actually settle in, and you'll get to see the true Dortmund of today come out, whether that's going to be good or bad. And harmless ball over the top from Upamecano comes over their back line. Kobel's horrendous whiff aside, his positioning and decision-making in that moment was just appalling. And when he came out of his box, in a similar situation just 15 minutes later as well. And it's just beyond me of how he came to that decision to come out of his box like that and leave yourself vulnerable. Again, that ball is not going to get to, I think it was Coman who was making that run. It's not going to get to him. So just wait at the top of the box, scoop it up. And of course, then you have position and you can build out of the back. But to come out and just leave yourself exposed like that was just, it was just schoolboy stuff. I had no idea what was going through his mind.
Yeah. And obviously this is like he's coming back, and maybe part of the blame is just the adrenaline and the hype and the pressure of playing in that stadium, because it's Bayern and just how many fans are there and just our performances there in the past. I don't know if all that pressure kind of leaned into this decision, because we talk about it all the time. I think there was a tweet before the match about how like underrated Kobel is and how like he's our player of the match so many times, and he always makes great saves, and he always seems like he has the right, like he's making the right decisions. Like we love Kobel so much, and I'm not going to let this like dishearten my views of Kobel at all. But I think maybe the pressure, especially just coming back, kind of got to him. And I don't know if you watch any of the replay or like highlights or anything, but the announcers were saying the same thing as far as like, why did he come out of the box? Like there was no chance of the Bayern player getting there. He could have just waited at the 18 and waited for the ball to come to him. And I don't know if just like feeling too amped or too much pressure, he thought, I need to run out and get this.
And again, it made it more concerning for me that he did it again a few minutes later. I could almost understand if you go out and you just had a complete brain fart of you're like, oh man, I don't know. I was just going out to clear it and I was trying to be the next Neuer. Who knows? But again, just a few minutes after that, you repeat the same mistake. And I'm all for people making mistakes and learning from them, but that's the point. He didn't learn. So to have a howler like that in a game like this, I get, having that once a season or so, but this is also the second time now, going back to the Berlin game in the fall, where he had some questionable decision-making as well. And I mean, just that first goal completely shattered Kobel's confidence. And despite that being extremely disappointing circumstances to be in, given how well Dortmund started this game, you're only down 1-0 and have been the better side for the last 12 minutes. And the players knew that what was at stake in terms of the table. They had this massive confidence booster right before the international break. You pick yourselves up, you weather the storm, and you don't concede another stupid-ass and easy goal just after that. But sure enough, Bayern go on to score not one, but 2 goals in the next 10 minutes. And by the 23rd minute, it's game over. And again, just appalling given how much we talk about the mentality of this team. And you thought these last few months, rallying the troops, Terzic being at the wheel, 10 in a row. I thought this was kind of behind us, given, too, we have a good amount of leaders in the squad. The veterans aside, players like Jude Bellingham too. I was just appalled that just like, his head dropped as well. It's just stupid mistakes. And I think it was the second goal that we conceded, if I'm not wrong. That was the 13th goal that we've conceded in build-up this season alone. And it just goes to show you how much we completely imploded and defaulted back to pre-World Cup Dortmund form within just not even 10 minutes. And again, just appalling stuff. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. I don't know what to add, except...
and it kind of touches on Chris's question. Shout out Chris from the Borussia STL group and also the City supporters group, when he asked, like, what are we looking for in these leaders on the squad, and the veterans not stepping up and doing their part. Here, I don't want to misquote him here. I got his question. The old guard has shown that they don't have the mental toughness to deal with adversity, especially regarding Bayern. Does that make them more likely to move on from Royce and Hummels in addition to Guerrero? Hummels wasn't on the field, but yeah, Royce had a pretty forgettable game too. And you'd expect him being the captain to rally the troops. Again, weather the storm, stabilize yourselves, pick yourselves up. Terzic said in the post-game press conference that it was not a time for finger pointing, but a time of raising your hands in responsibility and taking the game by the balls and actually going to Bayern. You started the game well. You're only down 1-0 and just showed that childlike mentality of just going back to, again, pre-World Cup Dortmund form. It was just shocking.
Yeah, and these are the games and the moments that you expect, like, your leaders to step up, which I think is, it is extremely discouraging, and it makes me question. Like, I think I still have some optimism moving forward, and we'll get into that in the previews a little bit later. But those are the moments that make, I don't want to sound like cliche or like stupid, but like that makes great players into, I don't know, world beaters or whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But being able to step up to the occasion, like that's what you need to win titles. And if our leaders aren't doing that and can't do that, then it makes sense that we haven't beat Bayern in 10 years. And it makes sense that like we haven't won a trophy in a while. And we had won the Pokal a couple years ago, but like that's what we need from those players specifically. And I know it was asked to Chan after the match about Bellingham specifically, and them kind of like yelling at each other on the pitch and like leadership qualities. And I know Bellingham's young, obviously, but like you are the third captain. You need to like keep your head on your shoulders and be encouraging and be motivating. And then Royce, like you'd expect him to lead the team too. And like how the first goal was conceded, obviously it was terrible, but that is the perfect opportunity to be like, no guys, we still have this, because it was a mistake. It wasn't because they got beat. That should just be more motivation to kick it into another gear, to get back into the game. And then after that, you kind of saw the collapse already. Like we immediately like went into our shells. We immediately were playing very timid and scared. And like, I don't know, it was just fell apart after that. And this is like, those are the moments, these are the games where you need those guys to step up, and it just didn't happen at all.
And it didn't help either that, of course, you're playing against Bayern Munich, the champions for the last 10 years, and they act like champions. I've said it for the preview of the game as well. Second that first goal goes in against Kobel, they smelt blood in the water, and they grew in confidence within seconds, and they knew exactly how to go for the jugular. That's what separates a team that comes in second, third, sometimes fourth every year from a team that actually consistently goes for the title. You go for the jugular. You don't let up. You don't take your foot off the gas. When you have that confidence, you build upon it, and you just keep going and keeping the pressure on. And it's just the complete opposite of what Dortmund did. Again, fell completely flat, looked at defeated looking. Mueller mentioned in the post-game comments with the media that he noticed some players around him in Dortmund just dropping their heads, pointing fingers at each other. I mean, in terms of mentality aside, from just the footballing aspect, we dropped so deep too, and just allowed acres of space for them to make these quick switches of play. And it left Chan outnumbered in the middle. There was no way he can cover an entire side of the field by himself. And whenever we did win possession, we were completely dumbfounded with the ball as Bayern collapsed on us. So it was just so much happening at once, and Terzic reacted too little, too late, too, to really make any sort of changes in the shape of our game. But I mean, Bayern, even with their confidence aside, again, just completely continued to exploit those areas of space that we let them into. You watch us in possession in this game, and we would try to build up from the back, wouldn't work, and we'd lose it in a dangerous area. If we get into the middle third, we'd pass it around here and there and try to find some meticulous kind of answer, wouldn't work. And the second Bayern would win possession, there's just so much space for them to use. and they would break on the counter, beat us with pace. They were lethal and continued to just outclass us. And it fucking sucks to say, but it's just the hard truth at the same time. And those are the things that you just need to try to tackle as a coach. And it doesn't just come down to Kobel. Again, despite him being out of his game, you don't take him off. That only makes things worse. But you get everyone else. There's 10 other players on the field. Rally them up and go back, and you don't even have to score immediately. I think that's another thing that we try to do too. Is we go down 1-0 against Bayern and an unfortunate goal against the run of play, and we immediately put ourselves in dangerous positions to concede again, rather than just taking a second to breathe, stabilize yourself, have a good collective shape about you so Bayern can't just play right through you again like they did, and go back and score, however many minutes it takes. It doesn't need to be immediately or an immediate response. Excuse me.
And I think Mueller even said it too in that same interview, how like Dortmund were on top of him like the first 10 minutes. And so like we had every opportunity and every chance to, again, get back into it, push. Of course, like Bayern's going to be pushing a little more, but it's like we were in control. We could have just taken control back, but we let them have it essentially, which is, again, just plays into everything we've been saying about the leadership and just the frustration of it. But I want to go back to Chris's question with old guard, new guard. Obviously, I mean, Royce is still the captain, but he is older, and we've known this, like, not phasing him out, but like a transition of power, I guess, if you will. And same thing with Hummels. So looking at who's in our team now, do you see anyone like as an emerging leader? Bellingham is an obvious choice. I know today, and it's probably more because as we're recording this on Monday, and it's because of the result of the match, more things are going to heat up, and there's a lot more talks about him going to Liverpool, and I don't want to talk about that really too much, but I guess besides Bellingham, do you see any other like emerging leaders? Like there's guys who I would want to be a leader and step into this new guard, as Chris is saying. But to you, is there anyone who like stands out to you, like, and actually shows those qualities? Because there's guys that I believe need to step up, but I don't know if I see those qualities from him necessarily.
First of all, I want to say that Bellingham's not going to go to Liverpool, if anywhere. There's no way in hell that they meet our asking price. And to be honest with you, I think he stays one more year. And I've been saying that for a few months, and pundits are starting to come around to that. But anyway, emerging leaders, I think there are a handful of players that have leadership qualities. And we've gotten some veterans here this past summer. But do they have the leadership qualities? I mean, Sule, I don't think so. He said himself, when he had interviews when he was signing, that he's not the most vocal player on the pitch. I think Haller can have those qualities for sure, especially everything that he went through. I'm not by any means putting any blame on him, but I thought he was going to be more of a figure in this Bayern game, given he's gone through so much. And, this could be something that he can, showcase to the rest of them of being an inspiration. But unfortunately, that didn't really pan out either. But he's still got a long way to go in terms of, building himself back into professional football. Rierson's got some, obviously he's got the grit in him. He's vocal as well. Chan is a veteran and also can be a leader. Other players, it is pretty disappointing. Which is why Chris has a valid point. We need to continue investing in not only just these young ballers, but players that can actually go and grab the game by the balls and be a leader and influence others and not let their heads drop. Jude is, of course, a prime example of that, but it doesn't stop there. So, yeah, I mean, the people who stick out, who I guess, like, I want them to be this next, if there's a new leadership, not community, a leadership group, like a leadership group next year, and who really needs to step it up. Like, I put Brandt in that category as someone who he's like a little older, like, because we have some super young guys, and then we have we have a few middle of the road too, but it's like older guys. So where's this transition coming from? Who can step up next year? Brandt is one where I would say like this guy could be that, but I don't know if I see those qualities. It's just like how long he's been playing, his age, how he's been playing this season. Like, I want that from him. Kobel is another one where because he is so vocal, he is so loud, like, where I could also see that too. But then I got questions about
like captain or leadership guys in the back, which is a St. Louis topic also, but or in goal, holding the armband or something like that. But outside of that, like Schlotterbeck is in there too. But it's like, these are all guys, Rierson, I see that, but these are all guys where it's like, I want them to be this, to step up, but I don't know if they're ready or if they will. And it almost makes me feel like we need to bring someone in who to fill that leadership role and to really get us there. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think Kobel's a good shout. I think he's got some leadership qualities in him. Another player you mentioned, Schlotterbeck. I think he's someone that leads by example rather than being another vocal player. But I mean, it's not like he's quiet or anything like that. So yeah, Schlotterbeck's a good shout too. But definitely could be something that we want to try to keep in on the back of our minds when we go into the transfer market for this summer. Someone that, again, can rally the troops. I wanted to touch on just a few more things here of the Bayern game, and then we can move on. Pretty equally miserable second half, unfortunately. Switched to a back three. Again, too little too late with the changes from Terzic. It was pretty much GG's in the chat at that point. Bayern pretty much gave up and knew that they were going to win, so they stubbed off Mueller, which kind of allowed us to get back into the game slightly. I'm not even going to say really back into the game, but just, again, emphasis on the slightly. It's doing a lot of the heavy lifting there, but big apology to Malandinho. He was our man of the match, in my opinion. He's been on fire these past few games. He's really the only one that tried to make things happen in this second half, in my opinion, and just didn't give up. He had that tenacity, which he's always had that tenacity about him, but he just didn't really have the quality, I guess, to go and net some. And he had a good finish too. We were talking about him shooting right at the keeper. That was a solid finish from him. So, props to him for stepping up when really no one else was, and especially a player like him. When if I were to look down the bench, he'd be one of the last few players that I would expect to actually come up and try to prove himself in this game. So, again, props to him for trying to make things happen and having a good finish.
Yeah, what a game to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
And I
think he deserves some time here going forward.
We have talked to throwing him under the bus quite a bit and written him off so many times. And every time he's gotten to start this season, it's like, why is he still starting? But I mean, he must show so much in training, which is good. Like that. I mean, and now maybe it just took longer than we hoped. But if now he starts to emerge, then great. Like we need it. Clearly, because although we've been super hopeful over the last those 10 games and everything, it's like clearly there's still another level we need to hit. But hey, well, yeah, I don't know. I've said I don't know. I've ended my phrases with I don't know so many times this episode.
You're good.
Just how I feel. Just blah.
I don't really know either, honestly. I've tried to wrap my head around this game for a while, and there's just so many things you could talk about, just why we continue to have this mental barrier against Bayern. I actually I saw this stat just before we started recording, and it was the few teams in the Bundesliga that are, I guess, top 10 teams in the Bundesliga that have gotten the most points from Bayern in the last 10 years. Gladbach are at number 1 with 29 points, and you got Leverkusen, Hoffenheim, Augsburg. Notice how I haven't said Dortmund yet. They're in 5th. We've only had 13 points from Bayern in the last 10 years. And I've been someone who's personally said, which, I mean, it still has definitely some truth to it, that every year in the last 10 years, you look back, come April/May, and you look at the table and you're like, wow, we're only a few points behind Bayern. Imagine if we didn't lose against Bremen at home, or we didn't lose against some bottom level team that wasn't, not an easy win, but for sure as hell a winnable one. But now, you got to look at the other aspect of it of, if you actually get results against Bayern, you're still neck and neck with them. So both of those things can be true at once. And it's coming more and more evident that just we need to get out of this mental block when it comes to playing at Bayern. And it's not just even really trying to go out and get a win, but just not collapse after 15 minutes. I mean, even 2 years ago when we went to Bayern during the pandemic and it was no fans, we had 2 goals against them in the first 12 minutes. It was Haaland and I think Hazard Either one of those two, I know both of them scored, but they also like were assisting each other as well. And you could still feel we're going to still lose this game, even though we're 2-0 up 12 minutes at Bayern. They're going to come back and we're going to somehow get mentally weak and we're going to become fragile. We're going to settle in, take our foot off the gas. And that's exactly what happened. So mentality, unfortunately, still a question mark with this team. And even though it was a very harrowing game and an extremely disappointing result, given that we were in first for 2 weeks now, it's not the end of the world. We're only 2 points behind them. We still got a good month and a half of football left. Well over a month and a half of football left in the league. 2 titles to go for still in the league and the Pokal, which is this Wednesday against Leipzig.
Going back to Bayern, just harp on it a little bit more. I think the first step is obviously there's like mental block, whatever. Like we need to get over this thing about beating them or like competing at Bayern. But I think the first step is like being able to beat them at home too.
Yeah, it's usually the most narrow wins at home, if at all, or we tie or lose at home, and then we go and get battered at Munich. It's pretty much like clockwork.
Well, I mean, earlier this year when we tied them at home and it was at the death, we got the tie, and like, of course we celebrated like a win because the fashion of the win, but it was still like we were trying to claw our way back into that game, and it's like we need to. That's almost like the first step. It's like if this is going to be if we actually want to compete against them, it's like we need to do our business at home. We can't just settle for a draw and let that be the good result at home. And it's like we're not even there yet, which is, I think, the bigger bummer than just getting battered at Bayern. Is like we can't even beat them at home, and that's the first step. And when we get there, then it's like, okay, maybe we're moving in the right direction. Not to say that we haven't made like positive moves the second half of the season. We have, obviously, but it's like if we want to compete against Bayern and prove that we can be their direct competitors, like that's the first step. We got to do our business at home.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And hopefully next season we could actually have a calendar where we're not playing Bayern in April, or at Bayern in April, excuse me. It's I think we've had at least 3 seasons in a row now where we've been at home first and then away in the second leg, and it's I'd much rather have it the other way around.
I think we got to earn that. We got to earn that.
Yeah.
All right.
Take that into account with the scheduling.
We can get into. Were there any other Twitter questions we need to hit before we like do previews? Or
well, I was going to do Leipzig and then do the Twitter questions.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. So Leipzig, Wednesday, Pokal, as you mentioned, 2:45 Eastern time. It is away at Leipzig. Of course, we've split with them this year so far. So. Yep. I don't know. I still just, I guess, wrapping up the not Bayern talk, but just talk in general and moving forward, looking ahead now. Even though obviously this was a terrible result and we're all down and we're sad, it doesn't like crush my hopes for the rest of the season. Still a lot of football to play. And if the guys can bounce back mentally and we can just kind of keep on doing what we've been doing, I think we still have a good shot to compete the rest of the year. Obviously, this match is Pokal, so it's different. It's nothing to do with the league. Now we're back to playing on a Wednesday, which I think we've obviously played better when we've had those like weeks off or full weeks to prep for our Bundesliga matches, which is going to be the tough part, especially coming off this Bayern game on the weekend. But I still have confidence that we are still a good team and we're able to push forward and get a result here. I think I know we lost, we got tore up the first half of the season when we played at Leipzig the first time. But given our last performance against them and how we've been playing, taking this Bayern game out of it, I think we should go into this game with a lot of confidence. I think the players should. And I'm hoping that they're motivated after this last match to show that we're still Dortmund from 2023 and not Dortmund of 2022.
Yeah, I wouldn't maybe use the word confidence, but I would definitely say it should be motivating that they can and should bounce back against a team that's absolute trash. And I'm not even talking about the recent fixtures. I'm talking about just in general. Leipzig are trash. But yeah, let's talk about the fixtures. Leipzig have not scored in 3 games now in all competitions. They were battered at City, which it's City, whatever. But then they came back and lost against Bochum in the league. And then they lost against Mainz in the league, were shut out 3 games in a row and have lost 4 of their last 5 matches in all comps, one of them being against us in the league when we got our 2-1 win over them. Of course, Schlotterbeck, we haven't touched on it yet, but Schlotterbeck has been ruled out indefinitely for the next month, probably month and a half, because again, we rushed him back in with the knock that he picked up in the international break. Now it looks like a torn muscle fiber, which is very unfortunate. Him being such a massive part of our defense, that's a huge loss. Hopefully Hummels can step up and earn his extension here. I think he's been wanting to have another extension here going into the summer, and this is the time to step up and actually earn him, and also earn his salary too. I retweeted a few weeks ago the top 10 or top 12 earners in Dortmund, and Hummels was up there. So if he wants his paycheck, he's going to have to step up here and get some good results going forward, because we have a lot of games left, and two very important ones as well. After Leipzig, we have Berlin at home, and that's another team that's in third, if I'm not wrong, in the table. So huge games. We also have Adeyemi that did not play against Bayern, which I'm kind of glad that he didn't play, just because, again, we're not rushing him back in. Have a few more days to rest. Hopefully he's fully good to go, because he's also been massive before he came out, about a month ago now. Bringing on, of course, he's really picking up form. His pace down the left-hand wing instead of the right-hand wing has been huge for us, drawing a ridiculous amount of fouls in dangerous areas, scoring goals, setting up crosses too. So I think Adeyemi being back is huge. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm really excited for Adeyemi if we actually see him, which I don't think he's on the injury list anymore. Like, I think he is good to go.
No, he was on the bench against Bayern, so
okay.
he's good.
Okay, I missed that. I'll be on it. I mean, I obviously watched the Bayern game, but after they scored the 3rd goal, I went and took my dog for a walk, and then kind of came back and finished the match with whatever time was left. And but here's me being a fake fan again, not even watching matches. But I kind of missed that he was on the bench. So yeah, that's great, and I would expect to see him get the start. Like, I expected to change up the lineup, and in the start. So hopefully he's just can step right back into the form he left us on when he ran out of his butt, literally.
And Mukoko is back as well. I thought he actually showed a little bit in the Bayern game. I didn't talk about him much, but I mean, he offers a lot of energy. He's small, but he's physical, and of course he's a great finisher as well. So I'm pumped to have another attacker here available. I think we can bounce back. I think this is obviously a huge test for the team to come back and try to get a result after such a harrowing day and Bayern, excuse me. But I think we can do it. Malen again is picking up form. I think he can maybe be a big help for us as well. I'm gonna go 2-1 us again.
So I don't say the exact same thing, I'll go 3-1. Going big. Typically, I would be like, given I know their run of form isn't great, but I've never liked playing a team after a loss because that just gives them the motivation to bounce back. But there's a lot they need to bounce back from. Yeah. But given we're one of the teams that has played them recently, I feel like that's even more of a mental barrier for them. Because the last 5 matches, it was we beat them, and then they beat Gladbach. And then the last 3, as you mentioned, City, Bochum, and Mainz, they all lost those ones. But they beat Gladbach, but 5 games ago they played us and they lost. And I think that just gives an extra, maybe they're thinking, of course, this is me just projecting and hoping. But it's like, this is a tough game. This is a tough game. Like, they need a bounce back game, but this is going to be a tough one to do it. So I don't know. This gives me more confidence, and I'm not as scared. Like I said it before the Bayern game, obviously it's just Bayern in general, but especially playing Bayern coming back from a loss, they're going to want it a little more, and it's going to be that much more difficult. This one I don't see as much, just given their run of form in general. I'm feeling just confident Jake over here, ready to have my heart broken, but I'm feeling good, ready to move on.
No question about it. I'm ready to be hurt again.
Yeah, I'm ready for the pain. We talked about this so much during our win streak. We had so much confidence. We're like, bring it. We're probably going to be devastated this weekend, but I'm still confident. And that's kind of how I feel. I'm still, that the 10-game win streak still is has me feeling good. And then, I mean, yeah, Berlin is going to be a tough game. And we've kind of split the last 2 matches with them, home and away. But we got them at home. And again, I think if we can just brush off the Bayern result and realize the task at hand, which is to perform and hopefully just win the rest, like there's still such a good chance to win the league. Obviously, we need some like Bayern results to go our way, and we're going to be having this back and forth if we play our best football. But there's still a chance. Like I think my biggest takeaway and my biggest motivation or encouragement to everyone, all of our listeners and Dortmund fans, is just like we still have such a good chance. And that Bayern game, that was not the chance. That was not a cup final. Like that didn't determine the league. Like, and there's still so much to play for. So,
yeah. Do you want to knock out a few Twitter questions before we get out of here?
Yes.
Badger Hopper, which we talked about this already, but I'd love to touch on it again. He said, with Schlotty missing a month at minimum, do we really want to put Chan back in the line of defense? We finally moved him into a defensive midfielder role where he thrives. I know we're limited in options, but is there anyone in the BVB2 that we can elevate? And I don't think for these 2 games, I don't think Koulibaly is up to standards for these for the Pokal game or the home game against Berlin. Unfortunately, I think Hummels that's just his slot at the moment. If really need be, Chan could slip back and Chan could take over as that 6. But at the same time, just like you mentioned, Chan has been thriving in that DM position right now. So I don't think, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which it's broken the back line. But again, that's a position for Hummels. And also, I'm really surprised that it took till April for this to happen. I think we knew in July that, man, we're only going to have 3 center backs, like 3 for 3 competitions. And we're trying to go for the league this year. So, I mean, really impressive that we made it this far before one of our center backs picking up a big injury. So that is something, and we'll talk about this after the season ends about just who we're personally feeling that we should maybe go for in the summer. But that is something that we should be definitely investing into, is just the back line in general. Not only with Benzibaini, which we talked about already, but some few other people, which I'll get into later down the line. But Southampton, if anybody watches the Premier League or specifically lower teams in the Premier League, Bella, I call him Ketchup or Kochap. He's a young center back for Southampton. Previously at Bochum, played in the Bundesliga and played well in the Bundesliga. Southampton look like they're going to be going down at the moment. And if that's the case, they're obviously going to need to make some cash. And I think that's where we could easily step in and grab him for maybe cheap and have a very solid young center back, in my opinion, that is obviously proven. He's got some size to him. He's got some pace. He's only 21. I think that could be a solid buy to, again, just keep reinforcing or bring in reinforcements for that back line, because it's pretty insane that we only have 3 center backs right now in the position that we're in.
Does it
Too
hurt?
Healthy.
Does it hurt seeing Akanji at City getting a lot of minutes?
It is. I don't know if it's hurt because I didn't, I guess, personally care too much that he left, just given because Schlotterbeck is phenomenal. But I am surprised that Akanji is getting as many minutes as he is, just given how many great center backs they have at City. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I just see him play, I'm like, oh. Well, I mean, early on when I saw him like starting and stuff, I was like, you're a mistake. And then he's just like performing solid. I'm like, man, dang it. But yeah, I was very like against Akanji, like, 'cause my thing was, I think, maybe pull the tape, but it was more like he was so unmotivated to play at Dortmund. He was so done. And that's what, seeing his lack of motivation really made me mad. So I was kind of like ready to get rid of him. But yeah, now that he's performing and whatnot, I'm like, oh, man. But
when you have a world-class center back around you, like, Ruben Diaz, or you also have a world-class DM in front of you of Rodri, that's of course going to make you look a lot better than you are, which I'm not saying he's been bad by any means, but it's just going to be a lot more stable overall, and you're not going to be needing to sprint back and save everyone else in your back line like he was for us. So
yeah. And then to quickly answer, I'll jump in on this was the question that was directed only at Carver, so maybe I shouldn't answer. Maybe I should. Maybe I should just subside. But no, I was going to say, obviously, Koulibaly, we've seen him come onto the bench, but I don't think he's going to come start. I don't think we need to drop Chan back because he's been playing so solid in that D-mid position, which will only help our center backs, which is, I think the obvious answer is Hummels coming in. And we've seen a lot of rotation throughout the season in those center back positions, whether it's Schlotterbeck and Sule or Hummels and Sule or Hummels and Schlotterbeck. And I haven't seen too much drop off when that's happened. Like I've preferred seeing Hummels and insert another guy. Like I think we've gotten pretty solid performances with Hummels in there as a starting center back. So I have no opposition to that. And yeah, I think just keep Chan where he's at, which only helps the center backs.
I think it's just Hummels' form has just dropped off a bit on the other side of the World Cup, just given because he hasn't been given too many minutes. But yeah, he was in terrific form in the fall. Absolutely. So I'm hoping he can maybe rejuvenate himself to get himself back into that sort of fitness and form for this next month or so. Because yeah, he's going to be crucial in this lineup. Last one here from Chaz. Shout out Chaz. Great talking with you on Saturday. He said we have to upgrade from Wolf at right back if we want to compete with world-class teams. Right? I think his match rating might be a little bit generous for how overrun he looked both with and without the ball. Chaz, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on this one. I think in the modern game, Wolf is basically everything you would want in a fullback and or wingback if we choose to do that system. I mean, he's got the pace. He can go up high up the pitch. He's dangerous in an attack as well. He's someone who can track back. He's got the work rate. It's also someone that we didn't really even touch on for the leadership qualities as well. I mean, he's someone who just lives and breathes Dortmund. So, I mean, he's, of course, it's in his core identity to give everything 100% for the team. So, I mean, should we look at another right back? Absolutely. Meunier, it looks like to be out the door. I really don't know if we're going to invest in Moret at this point. And if I'm not wrong, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, Paslak's out the door too. So should we invest in another right back? Yeah. Again, the whole back line needs investing in this summer, but I don't think there's really a need to invest in someone, I guess, that's going to be better than Wolf at the moment when we have other gaping holes to address.
Yeah, I completely disagree. When I saw this question, I kind of laughed because I freaking love Wolf at right back. I love it. And the first 10 minutes of this game when we were playing well, he had so many amazing passes. And we've been seeing, like, I don't know where I think we talked about Wolf at the beginning of the season as a player where, like, I'm like surprised that he's still at Dortmund.
Just his redemption arc, you know?
Yeah, and it's because I think I like whatever I said was something along the lines of like his ceiling. Like, I don't know how high his ceiling is. I think we've kind of seen it, and I feel like he smashed that. Like at right back, like his right back ceiling has been way higher than what we've seen before, and it's been great. So yeah, I love Wolf, and I just love him at right back. But there's still this part of me where, like, he's not really a right back, and obviously now it's like this conversation is like, all right, let's put Guerrero in the midfield because he's playing good there, and now Wolf's a right back now, and it's like, is that the best approach, or do we invest in guys that, like, they are specialists in that position? And then you also, I mean, maybe forget that Ryerson is obviously he can play left back, but he's a right-footed guy, and he can be that starting right back. Say if we bring in a Benzabaini, and so is that the question? Is like, do we get another left back, and then Ryerson is then the starting right back? Because I feel like since he's pushed to the left, we've seen less from him, and there could be a lot of factors to the drop off too. It's like maybe he just started really hot, but that's another scenario. It's like Wolf is playing right back because Ryerson has been playing on the left. And although we've been getting great performances, I don't want that to take away from what Wolf is doing, because I think he's also earned that position. But there's this weird, like, hinge that it's because Rierson's going out left.
It's very much in a transition phase for a lot of different just positions in general in this team right now. I think we're still trying to figure out, like, okay, so, which I'm not saying that like we don't know our best 11, but just what are the players or what are the roles that we're trying to mold these players to be?
Yeah. But to wrap it up, I love Wolf Right back, Wolf.
Me too. I
long.
don't think he had that bad of a game. I mean, if we're talking about just him kind of getting cooked at times, it's not exclusive to him. Everyone else in that back line got cooked, and Wolf on the ball wasn't that bad either. So,
all right. Any other questions or any other thoughts? We wrapping?
Let's get out of here. Let's all go finish up a good cry and get ready for Wednesday, y'all.
Yeah, Carver said we both kind of said we would be fine with doing a 10-minute episode, and we almost hit an hour. So.
Same thing.
Hope you guys hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Make sure you reach out if we just say hi. Let us get to know you a little more. Usually after matches or when we record, we always ask for some questions so that you can be part of the podcast too. And also you can DM us, follow us, say hi, Twitter and Instagram at thebvbpod. If you haven't done so already, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, you want to leave us a nice 5-star rating review. I'm going to go back and check because I always ask for these and then I don't really do anything. But if you leave us a nice 5-star review, I will give you a shout out on the next episode. So I'm going to shout out 5-star reviews. And then so Spotify, you can't leave a comment or anything. But you can also leave
it looks like you can nowadays. I've been noticing that you could put little replies on the episode, but only we can see them. So.
Oh, well, maybe if you can do that, I'll shout those out too. Or you can leave a review.
We've just been getting a bunch of shit comments in the past few months. And we're like, wow, it's weird that no one said anything.
You've been hiding them from me. If you want to say something nice on Spotify, leave a review, screenshot, DM us and say something nice. Also, if you have something mean to say, that's fine too. Just DM us or email us and then we'll have some banter. I don't know. But we appreciate you listening and we will be back probably next week after Berlin to recap Leipzig and the Berlin match.
And Berlin, yep.
See you later. Bye.